awesome.
Yeah, well, fantastic. And did you have some connection there? You had some.
Well,
I feel like
had all three kids went there, right? All three of our children. I have three kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Well, great. So you were. Did you have some connection there? You had some bad feedback.
Oh, I had all three kids went there, right? All three of our children. I have three kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Well, great. All right. Well, did you have some connection there? You had some bad feedback. Oh, are you getting that feedback?
I am.
Okay.
I have three kids.
Okay. Hey, Calder, we're getting pretty bad feedback. I don't know what happened. Just a bit. Yep. Now it's gone. Thank you. Whatever that was. Is it gone on your end too, Peyton? I just want to make sure that we're.
It's good.
Okay. Great. Well, listen. Hey, guys. Thank you all for being here with us tonight. We are excited to have Purpose on Tap, and sorry that we couldn't do it in person at Monday Night Brewing. We wanted to pull that off, but we just couldn't quite make it happen. Didn't feel totally comfortable with that. So we appreciate you all being here. Before I introduce Peyton, I wanted to just make sure that you guys knew, some of you may have heard about this, a guy who's been real involved with Purpose on Tap really from inception, a guy named Alan DeMint, passed away last week. He had complications from a heart condition. That were some tumors on his heart and some other things that happened. And so he actually passed away last Tuesday, so about 8 days ago. So Purpose on Tap is going to be real intentional about following up with family and all that kind of stuff. Some of you guys may have seen Alan running around with us. You remember him. So we're sad and certainly miss him. But we're thankful for the opportunity that we had to get to know him. Yeah, just wanted to make sure that you all knew that. Alan DeMint was his name. Switching gears, we are thrilled tonight to have Peyton Day with us. Peyton is a Georgia Tech man, so we won't hold that against him. Those of us that are UGA fans, I've got a daughter at UGA, but we are thankful that he is with us tonight, very involved with several foundations in the nonprofit world, serves in a series of roles within real estate and nonprofits and a lot of just different areas, and but is also very involved with and started the Rome Innovative Workplace that a lot of you guys are familiar with. Their locations around Atlanta, great places for people to go and work, but just very intentional about how they did that, how they brought those about, and we're excited to hear from Peyton tonight. So Peyton, from all of us, Purpose on Tap, welcome. We're thrilled that you're here with us. I'm going to turn the screen over to you and let you take over. For those of you that are watching, guys, if you want to switch to speaker view, that might be a little bit easier way for you to watch it, so you don't see a bunch of tiles up on the screen. But Peyton, thank you. We are grateful that you're with us here tonight, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Well, thank you, Tucker. And from a Georgia Tech perspective, it is hard losing year after year to your dominating football team. And, I've been going to Georgia Tech games for 59 years, and that's how old I am. So I was 6-month-old when I first started showing up at Grant Field. And the most nerve-wracking weekend of the year is always that Saturday after Thanksgiving when, historically we go down in flames every year. So it's hard being a Georgia Tech fan. I've been a long time. This is very, very difficult being a Georgia Tech fan, but it is what it is. So, well, listen, guys, honored to be with you. And what I'd love to do tonight is spend about 10 to 15 minutes telling a little bit about my story. And I'm hoping that we're going to have some really great Q&A time, because honestly, I feel like that's where the great takeaway value is. But my story, I'm going to take you back to my parents. My parents were both from South Georgia. My dad was the son of a preacher man from Savannah. They lived in a small town, and he was an itinerant preacher and would literally go around 4 or 5 different communities on Sundays, and he was kind of the guy. But when Dad came to Atlanta, he had nothing. And neither did my mom. They both lived in Techwood Homes, believe it or not, down by Georgia Tech, and were actually friends of the Cathy family. the founders of Chick-fil-A. And in any event, I had a wonderful upbringing. I was one of 5 children. I was in the middle, so I was always the peacemaker in the family. I had to get along with 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats as brothers and sisters. So, naturally, being the middle person, you kind of get beat up by your older brothers, and then your job is to protect your little brother. But really, it was through growing up, under my parents' tutelage, it really shaped my life. I was very fortunate to have 2 parents who were very committed to their Christian faith. My father started out building duplexes. That turned into building apartment buildings in and around Atlanta. And at the age of 33, he was a multimillionaire, quite frankly, and had the opportunity at that point to sell those assets. And 2 years later, he started a chain of hotels by the name of Days Inn. You guys a lot of you probably haven't even heard about it, but back in the day, it was a brand much like Hampton Inns. But that was kind of my upbringing. And my dad was honestly my hero. Just an amazing man, great visionary, entrepreneur, truly a leader. And so when I was 9 years old, he came to our family and he said that he wanted to start a hotel chain. And within 10 years, we were going to have 1,000 locations, and he wanted the family to vote on it. So it was me and my 4 siblings, along with mom and dad, all had a vote. And the vote went down 6-1, and that was the start of the company. The reason I tell you that story is because Dad never left the family behind. Every business decision that he made, he got his family involved in at a high level. Obviously not the details, but he never left his family behind. The other thing I would say, he's always wanted to live out his faith in the workplace attractively, and he did that through integrity. One of his favorite lines was, a deal is not a good deal unless it's a fair deal for both parties. I can remember stories about how he would sell real estate and actually buy real estate from farmers. This was back in 1970 when the interstate system was being developed in the country, and he was locating hotels every 30 miles on Interstate 75, 85, and 95. And I can remember stories about him buying land from farmers. And for those of you in the real estate business, you'll appreciate this, but he literally would ask the price for the per acre price of real estate. And if he didn't get a number back from the farmer that he thought was truly market, he would literally double the offer. I mean, it's just hard to believe that, but he really did. He literally said, "You're not charging enough because you don't know this, but there's an interstate coming right through this farm." I mean, that's the kind of man he was. And, he was a guy that knew how to lead people. So I was, very blessed to be led by a father, who really modeled it, his faith. So Dad took the company from basically zero. And for a time there, he was opening up a hotel. If you can imagine this, every week he was opening up a new hotel. And that went on for 4 or 5 years. Then the Arab Oil Embargo hit. This was back in 1973. You could not get oil. You could not get gas. So people that were coming from Canada to go to Florida, which is where we had a lot of hotels, they couldn't get there. So Dad almost lost the company. And he was meeting with 2 to 3 bankers a day, trying to work out loans. And he paid, after he was able to work through that over a 2 to 3 year period, he was literally meeting with 2 to 3 bankers a day, was able to work through that crisis. And in 1978, from all the stress of that, and this is after he paid back every single banker and the company was doing well again, we found out that he had cancer. So I was 15 when he was diagnosed with cancer. He died when I was 17. But Dad was my hero. And the reason that I, admired my dad so much was he really, truly did live out his faith in an attractive manner. And not only did he do that, but he treated people fairly with dignity, honor, and respect. But he in fact was my hero. But after he passed away, I really wrestled with what to do because I thought I was always going to work for him. So I went on to Georgia Tech like he did. And after graduating from Tech, I can remember turning 25. I was 25 years old, and I was thinking about Dad and his success. And, the only thing I can tell you is I felt a lot of pressure to perform. Performance, performance, performance. We all grew up, a lot of us grew up playing football and basketball, and it's like win, perform. And that was my MO, quite frankly, when I was 25 years old. I wanted to make as much money as I could, be successful, start a business. And maybe some of you guys have experienced that, but I can tell you, I felt pressure, and I can remember being incredibly stressed out, during that period of time. But then I started kind of thinking through, what does it look like to discover purposeful work? And I started looking at people like my dad and people like Truett Cathy. And in all cases, those that I'd really admired, there were three things that all of them had. They were leaders that other people believed in. They created cultures that people want to be a part of. And they were pursuing a cause that was worthwhile. So I basically tried to take the things that I learned from people like Dad and Truett Cathy, and I became a franchise partner with Marriott, where I was an owner operator, and we were able to develop limited service hotels for Marriott. And I did that for about 12 years. But it wasn't, and we were able to basically take some of those principles of culture and apply it to Marriott. But it wasn't until I was 49 years old that I truly found what I believe I was made for. And so tonight, I'm hoping I can share some ideas with each of you guys that will get you 20, 30 years down the road from where I started. And you're going to be a lot more productive than I ever was. But so as I started thinking about culture, and as we came into Rome, I believe that culture centers on people and job fit. In other words, what I mean by that is, I think the key to finding a job that you're passionate about, it has to intersect in three circles. So think of three concentric circles. The first circle is purpose. The second circle is passion. The third circle is talent. And I believe it's at the intersection of those three circles that we do our best work. So when I think about when I think about purpose, purpose answers the question, why do I exist, right? Why do I exist? Why am I on this planet? Passion is not only what you love, it's what you're willing to suffer for. I love playing golf, but I'm not going to go out and pound 1,000 golf balls, a day to get good at golf. But I am passionate about my family, and I'm passionate about Rome, and that's what gives me life. So that's passion. Talent is talent, right? What are your skills? What's your giftedness? I believe it's at the intersection of those three things that you're going to do your most impactful work. So, as Truett Cathy used to say, businesses don't succeed or fail, people do. So at Rome, we try to live that out. And so for those of you who don't know that much about Rome, Rome's vision is to renew and inspire how the world does business. And I think if we're being honest, most people, when they think about work, they think about a job. They think about a paycheck. They think about a means to an end, something just necessary and a real drag. But I believe that work should be purposeful, and it should be energizing, it should be inspiring, and it should be something that you look forward to every day. So Rome's vision is to renew and inspire how the world does business. And the way that we do that is we hire people who understand this idea around purpose, passion, and talent, right? And then my job as a leader is to be a leader that others will believe in. And I want to create a culture that other people want to be a part of. And we want to pursue a cause that's impactful. That's how we do it at Rome. When you can take purpose, passion, and talent, and that's the kind of, that's where people are going to thrive. And then you become a leader, even if you don't own your own company. You don't have to own your company. You can be a head of a division, or you can be a solopreneur, it doesn't matter, but be a leader that other people believe in. Create a culture that people want to be a part of, and then pursue a cause that's life-changing and highly impactful. So that's how we do it at Rome. The other thing I would add at Rome is we give people autonomy to make decisions. I think it's just crazy to think about how we don't let people make decisions. We show them what the vision is, we give them the guardrails, and we turn them loose. And we have a little formula that it goes like this. It's A divided by R equals 1. A is autonomy, R is responsibility. That should always be at least 1. The issue is not the fact that I give them autonomy to make decisions. The question is, are they going to be responsible in delivering on that? And thankfully, we have people that actually will deliver on that. And in fact, today at Rome, we have 97% employee engagement. And what's interesting about that is in most companies, and I think it would even be true, quite frankly, for the people on this call, only about 25% of the folks on this call are highly passionate about what they're doing at work. And so hopefully these are the principles that can help you guys find a job that could be meaningful to you. And the reality is we're all here for a very short time. We're like hotel guests. We're here one day and gone the next. And our life here is short. And while we're here, we need to make every day count. And we need to make it count by doing things with excellence, by doing it the right way, and by encouraging all those that are willing to follow us.
Peyton, that's awesome. I just wanted to chime in, and one of the kind of the 3 pillars you had mentioned was just, cultures that you want to be a part of. How would you mind spending a minute or two kind of diving into that a little further? I guess it sounds like you tried to bring that principle into your time at Marriott, then obviously at Rome, but some of us are getting into leadership positions within companies, or maybe even starting our own businesses. How would you help us think about creating a culture you want to be a part of? And then also maybe talk about, if you're in a culture that you don't want to be a part of, maybe how to handle that or deal with that.
Yeah. Well, it's real. Let me go answer the second question first. It's real easy for me to just say leave, right? But I know, what it's like to have a salary and a family and kids, and you can't always just do that right out of the gate, right? So when I think about culture, our whole philosophy is based on what I'll call Judeo-Christian values. We're not a Christian company. In fact, we want to hire people very different than us as well. And so, when you really think about it, just from a Christian worldview perspective, the way that Christ did it, it was what I'll call upside down kingdom, right? What does that mean? The first will be last, right? The list goes on and on. It's more blessed to give than receive, right? It's better to serve than be served. That's upside down, man. That's countercultural. Our culture is very countercultural. We hire people who love serving other people, who love people, right? And love people that are very, very different than each of us. And we want to do that in a non-judgmental, in a serving way that's attractive to somebody that believes differently than we do. We don't put a Christian fish, out on the, front of our door. We're very subtle, but we want to do things with excellence, and we want to create a culture that enables people to be successful. And the way that we do that is by hiring right. Generally, I'm a big believer that you spend more time on the hiring part. I mean, we'll spend 3 to 4 months before we hire somebody, but it's a lot easier to hire on the front end than fire on the back end. So the culture that we've tried to create, we're trying to set people up for success. That is our job as leadership, is to help them be successful. And the only way to do that is to create a culture that people want to be a part of. They like who they're doing the work with, and they like who they're becoming in the process. And that's what we're trying to do at Rome.
Thanks, Peyton. Practical recent question for you. You're creating a business and this essentially sets up environments for people to work safely and find space and commune and meet. Pandemic, March hits. What did you do as the leader? What were your main concerns, and what was your plan of action from March until now? And how did you handle it?
Yeah. So you'll note that I'm using a lot of Truett Cathy's comments, but he was very instrumental, in shaping our culture there at Rome. And my partner is a former vice president of marketing for Chick-fil-A, and learned so much from him as well. So I would say, from my perspective, the one thing that we have done during the pandemic, which is different than a lot of people, it would be real easy for us just to start firing everybody, right? And like downsize. Like, this is what I learned in business school at University of Virginia. It's like, you got to right size. You got to just let everybody go, and you got to right size the business. And that's a very short sighted solution in my mind. So we have not had any full-time employee go, by the grace of God. So, even though it's been painful, I'm going to be honest with you, it has been painful. We've been hit hard, particularly in the meeting side of the business, and it's been painful. But while we've been in this season, our focus has been on getting better. And we have rolled out 10 new initiatives that have taken the value proposition at Rome to a completely different level. We believe this thing is going to turn around when these vaccines get rolling. We believe by hopefully the second or third quarter of this year, we'll be off to the races again. But we've used it as a time to get better. And here's the thing, guys. This is where, in my mind and David's mind, this is where character shines. This is our opportunity, of all opportunities, to retain talent and to reinvest in talent, to double down on talent, so that when we get on the other side of this, we don't have to go out and hire like we used to. It's costing us some money on the front end, there's no doubt. But long term, we know that we're doing the right thing, because when we get on the other side of this, we're going to have bench strength that we've never had before. We've got 60 at the peak, including part-timers. We would have had 60 leaders. We have had to let go of some part-timers because we just didn't have any option to that. But the full-timers are still there. We're doubling down on that investment. And I think when you do that, during tough times, people remember that. And I can remember stories, about Dad kind of doing the same thing in Days Inn and the oil embargo. He doubled down on his people, and it paid off in volumes when things returned. But while we've been there, we've gotten better. Our people took on projects and used that time to grow the business, to add value to what we do. And we believe that's going to benefit everybody in the long term.
Yeah, let's maybe stick with kind of the impact your dad has had. I got kind of maybe a two-part question. So parlaying off what David just asked you about the pandemic, part A is, has this been maybe the toughest season of your life from a business standpoint? If not, maybe dive into what has. But then also, you mentioned the experience you're watching your dad kind of pay off all the loans and debt when he had the kind of oil crisis with the hotel business, and maybe talk to a little bit more about how your dad and seeing the decisions he made has impacted your leadership and culture at Rome.
Yeah. So, well, I can tell you that, Dad, again, he was a counterculture thinker. And as was Truett, it just makes no sense to close your business on Sundays. In many respects, in the world's view, it makes no sense to retain people when you're losing money. But the only thing I can tell you is that not only is it the right thing to do for your business, it's the best thing to do for your business. And, once again, businesses don't succeed or fail, people do. And our job as leaders, in good times and bad, is to show them that they're the heartbeat of the business. And without great people that know that they can be trusted, our entire culture is built on three pillars. One is trust, one is fun, and one is servant leadership. Those are the three pillars that the business is built on. And so if our people can't trust us during bad times, we got big problems. And so not only are we going to build trust during this time, but we're going to have fun during this time, because here's the deal, guys. on average, each of you are going to spend $100,000 hours of your life. You're going to spend 100,000 hours of your life working. Life's too short not to enjoy what you do, who you do it with. And life's too short not to pursue a passion that you're excited about. And I know a lot of people want to change the world, and that's how I was at 25 years old. And there are opportunities to do that. It does involve risk. Sometimes you do have to take some risk, but never leave your family behind. We're big on life balance. That's something I saw from my dad. My dad was home every night for dinner. He was in Atlanta. He was a busy man. He traveled a lot, but he was at home for dinner every night around the dinner table for 5 minutes a night. He would take the time to read a Bible verse to us, teach us a lesson on character. Just those little 5 minute. It changed my life, and so I've seen people who do it right, Dad. But I will tell you this: my first job out of school, I was working for a leader I didn't believe in a culture I didn't want to be a part of, and pursuing a cause I cared nothing about. And I was a failure. I was an utter failure. I just wasn't made for that job. I mean, I can go into some gory details, but I can tell you that, I was 25 years old, and I can remember the partner in this particular company. I'm not going to name names, but, his whole deal in life was he's going to be 35. He was going to be a multimillionaire, and he's going to retire. But the guy was not the kind of leader that any of you guys would want to follow. I can tell you that, his idea of having fun on the weekends was he would try to talk us into going to the strip clubs, if you can believe that. And here I am, I've been married for 6 months. And, I was like, I'm not going to give you the guy's name. I'm going to call him Jim. Jim, I can't do that. I got to go home. And not only do I need to go home, but I can't work 100 hours a week and be a good husband. So part of what we're trying to do, and this is what I learned from Dad, you can be successful in business and you can have life balance at home. I believe you can do that if you've got the right people working with you. So these are some of the things I learned from Dad during the tough times and even the good times.
So let's stick with that work-life balance. That's such an important topic for guys in their 20s and 30s. And like you had that experience with a culture and a leader you didn't believe in. There's probably the majority of guys on this call have the same type situation, or one that they just don't have control over because they're so young or they're new or whatever the case may be. So go into that. What do you recommend helping to make improvements with an organization? Do you recommend leaving? How do we sort of navigate that as the younger guy on the totem pole?
Yeah. So, as a believer, I think ultimately you've got to go to, what's God's Spirit, leading you to do, right? It's not what I say do or what your boss says to do, but, I think each of us has a tug in our heart when we know it's time to go. And sometimes you do have to make that step of faith, but I would not make that step of faith if your wife is not aligned. It's just, again, bring your family with you. You guys that are young, married guys, with kids, I'm just telling you, the best thing you can do for your kids is to love your wife. Number one. That's it. You love your wife. And a part of loving your wife is having, working hard, right? We're supposed to work hard. Christians should work hard at anybody. And we're going to work smart. We're going to create margin in our lives. What do I mean by margin? You got to say no to some things. You got to say no to things that aren't really that important. Invest in things that have permanence. Invest in things that have a built-in multiplier. When I mean permanence, things that have eternal significance. Invest in things that have a built-in multiplier. What do I mean by that? People multiply, right? Your kids, invest in your kids. Invest in growing leaders, right? This is the way that Christ did it, right? He started with 12 people and he changed the world. There are over 2 billion Christians. They started with 12 fishermen and guys that were just normal guys. That's amazing to me. And so for me, I think that's the kind of leader that I want to be. I want to invest in things that have permanence and have a built-in multiplier. And I want to create margin in my life so that I can say yes to my kids. I can say yes to my wife. I can be the best worker too without working 100 hours a week. I'm going to work smart. I'm going to say no to things. Even I'm going to have to say no to some good things. Nonprofit work, there are going to be seasons in your life you just can't do it all. But your primary responsibility right now is to your God and your wife and your kids. That's it. And I think if you do that and you can be successful there, you're going to have a lot more joy at your work. And as a leader of an organization, if I can create a culture where people can do that and thrive, I'm going to have a much better worker. And so it just works both ways. It's not only the right thing to do, it is the best way to do it. So life work balance, very, very important. For those of you who are in a situation, you may say, you don't know my boss. Well, I don't know your boss, but you may have to put some guardrails out there. And if you can't take care of your family, it may be time to leave. And if you can't create change in your department or your organization, and you can't perform while you do that, it may be time to move on. But always bring your family and your kids with you.
Awesome. This is a question from the audience. It's kind of goes to one of the comments you made around that kind of 3-ring intersection of passion, purpose, and talent. A couple things. One, have you read anything that would help you discover your purpose? And then also, is there anything you would say to help guys identify where that intersection might be between passion, purpose, and talent?
Yeah, that's good. So I'll tell you how I did it. I wrote a book. I don't even know if it's in print anymore, but it's called Your Work Matters to God. And Tim Keller has also written some books. We can get those resources to the guys, but Keller, I can't think of the name of his book, something on Endeavor, but maybe you guys can help me with that one, but that's a really good one. So here's something to think about. When we think about passion, so when we think about passion, here's how I kind of went through that process. I went back literally to when I was 5 years old. And every year I got older, like 5 years old, 6 years old, 7, all the way up until I was 27 years old. I asked myself the question, what was I doing when I was 5 years old that I loved doing, that I was passionate about, that I was willing to suffer for? What was life-giving? What was inspiring? What was energizing? You may think about something when you were 5 years old. And then you kind of carry that on, different milestones in your life, sporting things that you may have done, just different activities that you were involved in. What were those things, the qualities, what were the characteristics about the things that you found very interesting? But what you can do is you can begin seeing a pattern like that kind of points you in this direction. So I literally did that from 5 years old all the way up to, I remember when I was 27 years old after reading Your Work Matters to God. I think the author was Sherman, now that I think about it. I remember reading that, and you go back and you begin to see certain things that were life-giving to you as a young man, and you begin to see kind of this pattern, like this is where this thing's going, right? And when you're passionate about what you're doing, almost like when you were a kid and you're purposeful in it. And what I mean by purposeful is what I just talked about, things that have permanence, things that really make an impact. You get those two things aligned and, you're off to the races, particularly if you have talent in those areas. So I hope that helps.
From Tucker, the book is Every Great Endeavor by
Every Great Endeavor, yeah.
By Tim Keller. Had to give him the credit. All right, so just thinking about, I don't want to beat this up, but the passion hypothesis and thinking about following your passion. so many people, I feel like, have great hobbies and great things they're interested in, but they're not willing to suffer for them. I love that line, is you have to be willing to suffer for it.
Right.
What do you say to the old school method of putting in your 10,000 hours of work and becoming good at something? And with skill, you develop autonomy and credit, and you start to actually enjoy what you're doing. Do you have an opinion on that outlook?
Yeah. Well, the Bible talks about this. Whatever you do, do it with all your might, right? And so again, we ought to be the best workers. There is a limit. I think there's a law of diminishing returns. Look, when I was in business school at Virginia, I was studying 90 hours a week, and I was 240 out of 240 that graduated there. I think I was last, the people that got out of that particular class, but I just barely got through. But my point is that it's not because I didn't work hard. It's just because I felt like I was over my skis up there. But, so in my mind, you do need to work hard. I mean, without a doubt, but there's a limit, right? To how far you can go and still have success at home. And I can't tell you how many people I know are rich and have all the money in the world. They're the most miserable people that I know. And the reason is because they have left their first love, and they've left their God. And what happens, when we do that, it's just, in my mind, living an unfulfilled life. And so, anyway, those are some things that come to mind when you ask that question.
Peyton, again, sort of a two-pronged question, but what is the vision you have for Rome going forward, which also might talk to kind of something you mentioned in just the what the future workplace looks like.
Yep.
That could be interesting to hear your perspective.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of work on this, and we've studied companies like JLL, Cushman, CBRE. You probably have people on the call that work for those companies. Gensler, these world-renowned architects. We obviously are kind of a market study. We're kind of a petri dish in a sense because we've been looking at this for 10 years. So we believe the office of the future is without a doubt going to be more and more remote. CBRE did a study, 11,000 executives and 32 companies, 11 countries. They determine only 8% of those workers in those companies want to go back to the office 5 days a week. 8%. Over 50% want to be working from home at least 4 days a week or from somewhere remotely like Rome. So we believe that dynamic is changing, and we've also discovered through studying companies like this that there's going to be a move toward de-densification, meaning less people per square foot. For the last 10 years, it's been densification, where you basically pack as many people as you can into a small office. We think that's going to move, which I do think bodes well for the office market. But we do believe that people have found that they can be productive at home. For people that are Gen X and even, or I should say millennials and Gen Z. Gen Z, people like my daughter, 25 years old, she has 3 roommates. It's really hard to get work done in an apartment with 3 roommates. They're not being very productive from home. Obviously, millennials, you guys with young kids, you guys know what you're dealing with. But I do believe that, in the future, you're going to see more and more remote work. I think you're still going to have corporate headquarters, like at a Chick-fil-A, for instance. And then you're going to have little outposts around the city close to where people live. So it's a lot more convenient for people to get work done. And it's going to be closer to where they live. It's going to be good for the emissions. It's going to be good for the ozone. It's a win-win for everybody. So, we believe and hope and pray that, we're in a market that's going to continue to be good and thrive. We think we are. We certainly feel like the conversation around remote work has only been accelerated. And so we're excited about where we're positioned, but we're just going to have to see how it all plays out.
DJ, sorry, I'm stealing the mic to stick on this topic. Just how many Romes are there, and are they all in Georgia? Or
Yeah. So this is, again, going back to Truett Cathy, I'll give you a quick story. And for those of you who are maybe Chick-fil-A guys on this call, you may have heard this, but there was a Chick-fil-A meeting that took place, and Truett Cathy was in the meeting, and there was a lot of talk about, we got to get bigger. We got to get bigger. We need to go international. And Truett Cathy slammed his hand down on the ground, and he's on the table, and he says, I am sick and tired of people telling us that we need to get bigger. We need to get better, and our customers will demand that we get better. We need to get better, and our customers will demand that we get bigger. I love that story, because I will tell you this. We have tried, honestly, we have not tried to be WeWork. We've not tried to go everywhere. We believe that, the key is you build a solid foundation, an inch wide and a mile deep. You bring in the right people, and you continue to reinvest in it. So basically, we have 6 locations in Atlanta, to answer your question. And our goal is to develop a southeastern footprint in due time. But our whole emphasis is not on getting bigger; it's getting better, and that's where our emphasis is. And up to this point, it served us very well. But without a doubt, we want to grow. We're posturing to grow, and we do think when we get on the other side of this pandemic, it's going to open up all kind of opportunities for us.
All right. So when you're assembling a team and when you're hiring your team at Rome, I know you emphasized you look for people who are servant-hearted, servant-oriented, who love serving people. I know you have really good points for sort of how we as individuals look for purposeful work. But when you're actually assembling a team or hiring, what do you look for, and how do you know that they're going to be servant oriented?
Yeah. Well, a good place to look is just look at their track record. Did they give themselves away to other people? As an example, in nonprofit work. The other thing we do is we date before we get married. We do a lot of shadowing. So we'll have people come and we observe how they work. How do they interact with a guest? So we'll bring in people, and again, we'll date before we get married. And that's a really interesting way of looking at people. We intern people, right? Great way to look at talent. We do internships. These are all ways that don't cost a lot of money, but I think are effective ways to attract the right type of talent.
That's awesome. Peyton, what I guess so you were in business with your dad, it sounded like, or at least kind of part of the family business at some level.
As a 9-year-old, yeah, best be as much as a 9-year-old can be. I actually did feel like I was part of the business. I did cut grass, and I cleaned toilets, and I cleaned pool tiles. I was kind of a part of it.
Would you? And I don't even know if would you have ever hoped or thought any of your kids would join you in your kind of professional path, or maybe discouraged it? Or
yeah, here's the thing, guys, and this actually ties back to my faith story. I'll come back to that. I'm glad you asked that, man. I struggle with what I'll call performance mentality since the time I was young. Maybe you guys can relate to that. This goes back to sports and athletics. When I do things well, or when I have success, I kind of felt good about myself. And that's a really hard way to live your life. And I can remember bumping into a guy named Randy Pope. Maybe some of you guys know him. And, it was there that he talked to me about, and really helped me understand grace, which to me is the most awesome message in Christianity. For somebody that performed and their identity was often tied up in what they did, Randy helped me understand this concept of grace through faith, and that, the reality is Peyton Day is dead, as a person. He's not bringing anything to the party. I'm not only sick, but I'm dead. But by God's grace, and through Christ, he's brought me back to life. And I no longer feel like I have to perform. And I have this sense of peace and security like I've never had before. And I remember he used to say, "Cheer up, Peyton. You're a whole lot worse than you think you are." And then he would say, "Cheer up, because God's grace is a whole lot better than you think it is." And that to me is the Christian message, that message of grace. And for those of you, who've never really explored that, man, I just want to encourage you to check it out. That message changed my life. And, I think it can help change yours too.
Hey, thanks, Peyton. I'm going to ask one more question. With Christmas coming up and it being 22, 23 days away, we all know that holidays are a great time for some people, a hard time for some people, and a sad time for some people. What type of encouragement or wisdom do you have for anybody that may be struggling on how they can help get through the holidays and look towards a brighter future of next year?
That's great. Well, first of all, these are trying times. And I think the question was asked earlier, is this the hardest time you've ever experienced? And I can tell you 1000%, yes, this is the most difficult period I've ever experienced in my life. And I know that there's a lot of pressure on you guys out there to perform. I know that you're feeling the pressure with your families to be the dad that you want to be. I know that you're feeling all these pressures. And as my dad used to say, I don't know what the future holds, but I know who holds the future. And I do know this, that, when we sing that song, "O Come Emmanuel," Emmanuel means God with us. And the reality is, if we've got God with us and we know he's a God who's faithful, who loves us, even when we screw up, and I do a lot of that, that's a life changer for me. And so, as we think about the holidays, I know that there's a lot of pressure and a lot of you guys are thinking about getting to 2021. I can't wait to get to 2021. This has been a really, really tough year. But honestly, guys, this is a time that you're going to look back on and you're going to go, man, this was really hard, but this is your opportunity to shine. I think we need more people out there that express hope. And, I'm a firm believer that, the world needs authentic Christians living out their life with integrity and just being honest, man. Look, the Christian life has a lot of battles, and I know you guys are fighting battles today. But ultimately, we know that, during this season that, Paul, I think about Paul. Paul said he was the worst of sinners. If that's true, I don't know who I am. I mean, I'm not even on the radar screen. I'm the worstest of sinners, right? And so, as we go into this season, I just want you guys all to know that you're special and you're important and that God loves you and he's got a wonderful plan for your life. And just keep seeking him during this season and just pray that he'll show you what to do in the future. And I will say this, I don't think you find God's will for your life. I think you're either in it or not based on your relationship with him. So for people who don't know Christ, man, just check it out. For those of you who are believers, go deep. And we all need that North Star in our lives. And I can tell you without a shadow of doubt that if you will keep Christ number one in your life, he's going to take care of everything else. I promise you he will. It's been true in my life. It doesn't mean we're not going to have trials, but we know that anything that comes across our path that's really, really tough, that he's going to work good in that. And I believe that from the bottom of my heart. And I know that you guys, as you go into this season, there's going to be a lot of reflection. There's going to be depression, but man, don't give up. We're going to get on the other side of this. And we do. We're going to be better people because of it and better leaders because of it.
Great answer, Peyton. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thanks again for your time, for your wisdom. I know that all the guys on here really enjoyed it. We will have this. It's on YouTube Live. We'll put it up on our website as well and send it to you. As you know, we really wanted to be here in person tonight, and we know you did as well. So we're bummed we weren't able to make that happen. But we are planning on doing our hybrid version starting in February. So that'll be whatever is recommended as far as capacity. For those guys listening, we'll allow that many people at the facility, and then we will be live streaming it just like this on Zoom and YouTube Live. So thanks again, Peyton. We really, really enjoyed the time, really enjoyed the wisdom, and really appreciate the remarks at the end on some good words of affirmation on how to get us through the end of the year.
Well, it's an honor to be with you guys, and let me know if I can ever help any of you guys. You guys are the leaders. You guys are the next generation of game changers. And, I'm just privileged to have the opportunity to speak to you guys tonight. Merry Christmas to you.